Hi, how's it going?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm all right. I mean, I'm so thrilled that I get a chance to talk with you because I'm such a fan of you and your work. You
Oh,
know,
that's very sweet. Thanks.
in this project, in every project, I've enjoyed the recent work that you've been doing. I want to jump it off a little bit. I have a bit of a strange way to get into it, but let's
Okay,
try it out. So,
let's do.
American Murderer, you get to work with Tom Pelphrey. Tom and Anthony Starr work together, right, on Banshee and are still good friends. And you,
Yes.
of course, worked with Anthony in The Boys as Becca Butcher. Feels like you've kind of completed the circle a little bit, or the triangle a little bit here. But one of the things that interests me the most about that and that connection is just the idea of um, raising raising children, or
Mhm.
the idea that children will listen. In American Murderer, we're with Tom, we're never quite sure. Is this guy, is he like all the way bad? Is he like really villainous? There's moments where he's sort of, maybe a little relatable, friendlier. And then we can, of course, look at the idea of the family trauma as perhaps maybe calling into it. We can see his relationship with you, with his sister. How do you feel about that? What does it feel like? The idea on screen that, characters maybe have these gray areas or don't.
I mean, that's why I do what I do. In general, every role that I take, every script I'm interested in is finding the truth of humans. And the truth of humans is the complexities. And before I deep dive into explaining, obviously, I have to say I do not condone murder, because this is a fictional story. It's not something that is based completely in truth. We're not making a documentary, but at the end of the day, we are talking about somebody who did take a life, and that is something that I obviously don't condone. But in the frame of storytelling as an actor, what's interesting is to never play a character that's all good or all bad. That isn't, sure, if you want to put a label on it, that's the villain of the story, but are they? Is the sister just a good human being? No. She doesn't turn him in. She doesn't do the right thing. Like nobody is all good or all bad. We're all just shades of gray trying to pretend like we're not human, like we don't have impulses or love that drives us to not always do the right thing, that sometimes love drives us to do the wrong thing, that there's, you know, that there's lines with family that are different than anything else, that we want to sit back as an audience, or even myself reading the script, and think maybe I would handle it differently. But if I really sit with it and I think about it and I think about what story I wanted to tell, which was, from my perspective, the story of the brother that I knew and experienced, and the shock and the horror of what he did, and the fallout of it, of how complex and complicated it would be to do the right thing, and to have lost a father already, and in him disappear, losing him, but still losing him, and to now lose a brother, and the trauma that would exist and the dysfunction within a family. And that's what interested me, was what's the truth in this, like, and the truth is pretty ugly. Usually the truth is not, I'm this perfect person. Like, that's not interesting to tell. I don't want to tell the story where the audience likes, like, you can watch The Boys and people love Homelander, and you're literally, he is a rapist and he's like every bad thing in the book, and we still, because of, Anthony being an incredible actor, and Tom, and all these different people, when you watch villains, it's scary because you find things you like and relate, because at the end of the day, they're human. They're not just a murderer. They are a brother, they are a son, they are a boyfriend, they are a lover, they are all of these different things. And I think it's scary as a human to wonder what it is that makes us become the worst possible scenario of ourself.
Yeah, oh, that's really, really interesting. Give me a lot to think about there, too. Yeah, we are a superhero as well.
Yeah. Exactly. We're all just flying around figuring it out.
It's so interesting in this film about, everybody sort of has sort of a capture or perspective on trying to figure this guy out. And I don't know, he was never found.
Because it's never, yeah, and it's never like fully realized, the relationships, the scenes, we get these small bites of a pie from each perspective, and then you're kind of left to just wonder and figure it out, because that's the real story. That is the truth. We're all left to come up with our theory of where he is, what happened. It definitely creates the same dynamic of what I'm sure a lot of people that knew him feel. And yeah, it was great. I mean, part of the pull of doing the film was my conversation with Matthew, the writer and director, and how passionate he was about this particular story. And also his passion for my perspective of wanting to tell the familial story, the trauma bonds, the things that I know and understand from my own life, from my own therapy. And then also, Tom and Ryan and Jackie were all people that I had either on my list of people I wanted to creatively spar with, or, to do something different with Ryan was so interesting. I played his wife for 3 years. What would happen if we were removed and we were no longer, you know what I mean? And our connection is his passion for the story of my brother and me not wanting him to know that story so well. So that was great. And, Tom was somebody that I had watched like shortly before that on Ozark, and just is such a powerhouse of talent. And that part was really exciting to me.
What does it feel like for you to watch a movie like this?
Oh, all I do is sit and judge myself. It's awful. Like, I wish that I could just sit in and enjoy it from like a different perspective, but it's like that, whether it's watching FBI that's on right now, or watching, I see all of the little things that, I would tweak and fix, or that they changed, or that, and I just find myself judging it, and then I usually let it go, and I use it to challenge me to be better every single day.
I have read about that you're a relentless self-critic about it. You don't want you don't want to
Yeah,
pay
I'm
attention maybe to
not
that.
self-critic about everything.
You can't find maybe like the movie, the show as a whole, or an arc, or somebody else's
Oh
character,
no,
or disassociate, or
no, I can, like, if I step away from For All Mankind, I feel maybe the deepest sense of pride in myself for being able to create something that didn't exist. And I know that it's not on my own, but I do know that I dug the deepest I ever have in my life to play Karen, and to find empathy, and to find a place of non-judgment. And it it aligned perfectly with bosses and creative people who saw that and wrote for it. And it was just this beautiful, perfect storm that I got handed in a wrapped up, perfect gift. And so there may have been moments that I wish I could have done better, but as a whole, walking away from that project, I feel the most proud of something I've ever done in my life.
they gave us the first 8 episodes really early on for the media site, and I'm watching, and again, it's not kind of the show I didn't think I would necessarily go towards, but I did. So watching the first 8 really early on, and I'm thinking, okay, this is it's building, and they'd held on to the last 2, and then after, I think just right after your Comic-Con, got to see them, and devastating, really devastated, because I didn't see. I saw the seeds coming up, but it just kind of came out of nowhere. That
It's
must
so
have been.
They just do the most wonderful job of going against your expectation. Like,
Yeah.
so many times people will be like, watching it, and they'll say to me, "Oh, I think this is going to happen." I'm like, "Oh, mm-hmm. It's definitely not going to happen. It's
But you
all.
predicted it. You knew. You saw that.
I didn't know, but I think I just have a really deeply in tune gut feeling about a lot of things with Karen. But I think I also knew that it makes sense to me that she would go out at like the height of everything, that her life wouldn't get to be fully realized, but that she got to be fully realized, which was the story. It was the story of finding her love of self. And for so many years, the grief of loss taking her away from herself, and who she got to be in the end may not have been this fully, realized human that had all of the experiences, but what she had and what she gained and learned was how to find her authentic voice and how to find her own power and her own love of self. And um, again, it's complex because I think that she's somebody that would have given and given and given and died and been happy doing that, but not her happiest. And sometimes it takes a really shitty human moment, like sleeping with your dead best friend's son, in order to realize things. But what I love is that for people who can tap into their own humanness, they know and understand why. They don't judge the act, but they look at what happened to her because of making a giant mistake in her life and the way that it transformed her and allowed her to find herself, and speak up for herself. And there's something really honest and ugly to look at in those moments where it's easy to judge, where it's easy to say, well, why didn't she just leave? Why did she have to do that? And instead look at how many people do it in life, and look at our divorce rates and look at those things that scare us and make us feel like really crappy humans, and stop and not judge, and instead recognize that if there's something internally happening and the wheels are spinning and you're judging, that there's something that rings true in it. And that's what I loved about the show, was the way it just quietly planted seeds that would grow into massive oak trees that you never saw coming.
Okay, so to bring it all together with that great answer, by the way, I wanted to build on that a bit. That, in your alternate universe, you get to have like a female president, which would be nice to
Yes.
see, and a lot of other things in which the alternate world has improved upon our own. When you're talking about how you're taking on projects that are, and I have noticed that are dynamic, that are responding to the world, our world is becoming, in many ways, kind of shittier. There's
Yep.
been a lot of stuff going on in the past few years. How do you feel like shows like this, and a movie like this in particular, responds to the real world?
It's interesting because, if I'm being honest, both of them and the boys, and they have these microcosms of stories. If you look at them, they're big, but on the outside. But if you really sit with it and think about the shows and the characters, the stories are simpler. They may have this big backdrop of space. They may have the big backdrop of superheroes. They may have a big backdrop of like, murder stories that we like to hear about. But in a microcosm, what it's about is humans, and it's about being more truthful and more less judgmental, and about more honesty, and about so many other smaller stories within the larger backdrops, that's what I always hope people take away from it. Like in American Murderer, we take away the ugly truth of people being capable of being a murderer, but also being a loving brother and having a broken heart because of his dad, and understanding the complexities of that. And you walk away from each show or each character that I get the chance to play, and I think if somebody can accept something about themselves or their life, or find a gray shade of truth that exists, that they get to process and heal, then I've done my job.
I'm so happy I got a chance to speak with you, to hear from you, And with your perspective on all of the projects you're doing, I hope that you continue to find those that are meaningful to you, and that you have the best every other day other than Halloween.
It's not that I hate it. I just am so not like I'm in Toronto and I'm
Oh, me
working.
too. Me too.
Yeah,
Back in
I'm
Toronto. Ooh.
working. So most of the time I'm working on Halloween, so I don't even have to think about it and I get to let everyone else dress up and just, cheer them on.
You're back in Toronto. The boy shoots in Toronto. I don't know, or something different.
I don't know.
You've left some breadcrumbs. That's a little bit like a Halloween. But I just wanted to say thank you overall, and whatever you continue to do, I really appreciate it. Thank you so
Of
much.
course. Thank you so much, Charles. Have a great day.